Snow lay heavy across the Bavarian countryside in the spring of 1922, muffling every sound around the isolated farmhouse known as Hinterkaifeck. Inside, a family went about their evening routines, unaware that their lives were about to end in silence. The Hinterkaifeck murders would become one of Germany's most haunting unsolved crimes, a story of isolation, fear, and unanswered questions. The farm stood about a half-day's walk from the nearest village, surrounded by dense woods and open fields that swallowed light after sunset. Smoke from the chimney had been seen earlier that week, but by the weekend, neighbors noticed something was wrong. The animals were restless, the post was piling up, and no one had been seen in days. When a small group of villagers finally approached the property, they found the front door locked and the courtyard eerily still. A faint creak of wood echoed as they pushed open a side gate. Inside the barn, the air was cold and damp, carrying the smell of hay and iron. Beneath a layer of straw, they discovered the first bodies. Each had been struck with brutal precision, suggesting a weapon wielded in close quarters. The quiet of the countryside was broken only by the wind pressing against the barn walls. It was the beginning of a mystery that would confound investigators for generations. When authorities arrived, the scene was grim and methodical work began under gray daylight. Officers marked footprints in the snow leading from the forest's edge toward the farmhouse, each print crisp and solitary. Strangely, none led back. The pattern suggested someone had entered but never left, a detail that would unsettle even the most seasoned investigators. The farmhouse itself was sturdy but old, its wooden beams creaking as officers moved from room to room. They found the remaining victims inside, each killed with the same blunt force. Oil lamps flickered as constables documented the scene, sketching floor plans and noting the position of every object. The kitchen table was set as though dinner had been interrupted. A clock had stopped, its hands frozen at a particular hour that would later be debated endlessly. Outside, villagers gathered in silence, their breath visible in the cold air. A priest offered quiet prayers, while constables secured the perimeter with rope and lanterns. The local magistrate arrived by carriage, his boots sinking into the slush as he stepped down to confer with the lead officer. The sound of pencils scratching against paper mixed with the low murmur of voices, each man aware that the smallest oversight could erase a clue. As night fell, lanterns cast long shadows across the yard, and the farmhouse seemed to retreat into darkness once more. The investigation unfolded slowly, constrained by the forensic limitations of the early 20th century. Officers photographed the scene with heavy tripod cameras, the flash powder leaving a sharp smell of smoke in the air. They collected the murder weapon, a mattock believed to have come from the farm itself, and wrapped it carefully in cloth before sealing it in a wooden evidence box. Fingerprint dusting was attempted, but yielded little. The rough surfaces of the barn and tools were poor for impressions. Investigators interviewed neighbors, farmhands, and traveling laborers, documenting every rumor and recollection in thick notebooks. Some villagers recalled hearing footsteps in the attic days before the murders. Others spoke of strange lights flickering near the woods. Police organized search parties that combed nearby fields, their lanterns bobbing through the fog. Dogs were brought in to track scents, but the snow and time had erased most traces. The community, shaken by fear, began locking doors that had never been locked before. Children were kept indoors, and farmers carried lanterns when walking home after dusk. Newspapers from Munich and beyond printed cautious headlines, describing the case as both horrifying and baffling. The authorities, under pressure, extended their search radius, checking railway stations and inns for anyone traveling alone with blood-stained clothing or nervous behavior. Yet every lead dissolved into uncertainty, leaving investigators with silence and speculation. As weeks turned into months, theories multiplied. Some believed the killer had hidden in the farmhouse for days, surviving on food from the kitchen and tending to the livestock after the murders. Others suspected a personal motive, revenge, inheritance, or jealousy, but no evidence confirmed any single path. The local police collaborated with regional detectives, reviewing statements and re-examining the physical evidence stored in sealed crates. The weapon was tested for traces of hair and fabric, though the methods were crude by modern standards. Several suspects were questioned, including former employees and distant relatives, but none were charged. The press fueled public fascination, describing the case in chilling detail while avoiding outright speculation about supernatural causes that some villagers whispered about. Reporters visited the farm, sketching its layout and noting the oppressive quiet that lingered there. Over time, the farmhouse decayed, its roof sagging and windows clouded with dust. Investigators revisited the site periodically, hoping new eyes might see what others had missed. Yet the same details remained: footprints entering, none leaving, and a family silenced without a sound. The case file grew thicker, filled with reports, diagrams, and unanswered questions, until it became more archive than investigation. Decades later, the story of Hinterkaifeck still unsettles those who study it. The farmhouse was eventually demolished, but the ground where it stood remains a place of uneasy memory. Historians, criminologists, and amateur sleuths continue to analyze the evidence, comparing notes and testing old theories with the modern forensic reasoning. DNA testing was proposed long after the original evidence had deteriorated beyond use, leaving only photographs and written records to examine. The case endures not because of its brutality alone, but because of its silence, the absence of motive, confession, or closure. Families in the region still speak of it in low tones, as a warning about isolation and the unseen dangers that can dwell in familiar places. Each retelling carries the same haunting image: a trail of footprints leading to a home where life once thrived and then stopped. The mystery remains, preserved in archives and memory, a reminder that some truths resist even the most determined search. In the quiet fields of Bavaria, the wind still moves through the grass where the farmhouse once stood, carrying with it the echo of unanswered footsteps.